Yo, what is good, everybody? It is your boy Golden Falls, Golden What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is a brand new Deku What If. What if Deku had a space Quirk? Part 1 of 2, as always. And yeah, there's not much else I have to really say. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Like I said before, my goal here is to do a mix of like Demon Slayer, do a mix of my hero, and you know, every other little thing that I feel like doing. Now, obviously, I would love to do some Naruto stuff and mix it up here and there and just kind of keep things fresh. And yeah, I want to keep things fresh for myself mainly. I know some of you like watching this, watching Shield Hero, watching whatever. For me, it's like I just want to keep things fresh so I don't get too bored. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoy the video. And with all that said, I don't want to waste much more of your time. Check the links in the description for the Spotify, the Discord, and all that good stuff. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Let's get right into it. Let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is in a world full of superpowers known as quirks. And these quirks vary from various different aspects and various different powers. But Izuku Midoriya would be blessed with a quirk that would be far different than anything anyone would expect. With his mother Inko Midoriya having a quirk that is basically very weak telekinesis, well, let's just say a lot of people were believing he would get something similar or borderline the same. His father used to breathe fire, so maybe he would get something similar to that. But no, he wouldn't get any of those. He would actually get a quirk that nobody would even imagine in the first place. And this quirk, well, the doctor deemed as a space-like quirk. And it sounds odd and it sounds weird, but this space-like quirk allows him to do various different things. For starters, when he's younger, I mean, he doesn't really do much, right? He can't really do that much. But what he can do is create a pseudo-black hole for various different things. And they would use this pseudo-black hole to actually, you know, empty trash and do stuff like that. And Izuku even becomes part of kind of like this odd trash-like thing where he would kind of be a part of getting rid of a ton of different materials that were unneeded, trash and all that stuff. And it definitely helps out a lot of people and a lot of different companies and or agencies, even including the beach known as Dagobah Beach. He actually was a part of, or is a big part, if not the major part, of actually cleaning up that entire beach at a young age. Only at the age of around 8 or 9 years old, Izuku is cleaning up and doing all these different things and finding uses for his quirk that many people would never expect. Yes, he's technically not allowed to use it in a hero sense, but he actually is given permission to use it in a more traditional manner, right? Outside of the hero kind of idea. And this is a perfect thing for Izuku Midoriya and a perfect aspect for him to get into. And Izuku continues to kind of get use out of his quirk. I mean, he finds new ways to basically utilize it throughout this time. And one of those main ways actually is basically for him to gain the ability to actually fly. Yes, his ability to fly at around 11 or 12 years old, Izuku has the ability to actually fly, create pseudo black holes, and do various things along those lines. And frankly, it continues to get better and better for him because he's just excited to see what he'll be able to do at the end of the day and at the end of it all. Because Izuku continues to get stronger and better at utilizing this quirk and continues to get stronger and better at utilizing different and various different aspects of that said quirk. Now, after some time would pass, he would finally have the day at at his middle school that he would actually be speaking and or kind of listening to his teacher. His teacher would go over what they are expected, what do they want to do, and also like what they want to do with the rest of their lives. Most of them say they want to be heroes, and that would include Izuku Midoriya. And even Bakugo would say that he wanted to be the kind of only one out of this school to be the hero that he knows he can be. He wants to get out of this dump and be the greatest hero anyone has ever seen and make a ton of money. And of course, Izuku's like, well, you know, I kind of just want to like be a good hero. I kind of want to just help my community and blah, blah, blah. And Bakugo's kind of like, yeah, this is how I know you're lame. Yeah, you might be strong, you might be this, but you're just so boring, right? Of course you want to do those things, right? Of course you want to help your community. Of course you want to like do this or do that. Like that's just what he does, and that's what he's been showing that he wants to do day in and day out. And at the end of the day, a lot of people, I mean, believe that this is very boring and a very typical thing, you could say, in terms or in regards to becoming an eventual hero. And Izuku, he doesn't care. He doesn't hear all the noise. He doesn't really mind it. He just wants to be the best he possibly can. And that's exactly what, well, even his teacher believes is going to make him a great hero. And that's what a lot of other people, even lower tier heroes that have met him, believe that is going to make him a great hero. After some time would pass throughout the day, he would head home and actually go underneath a bridge. And as he goes underneath this bridge, he would be just writing down different aspects of his quirk, writing down aspects of other people's quirks, and trying to figure out what he should actually be getting into and what he should actually be doing. And the main thing that eventually happens is an actual kind of a encounter with someone known as the sludge villain. Yes, the sludge villain begins to attack Izuku, telling him that he needs his body. In which Izuku's like, what the hell? Like, what are you talking about, need my body? Like, this is kind of crazy. In which the sludge villain tries to attack him, tries to actually take over Izuku Midoriya. But unfortunately, at least unfortunately for the sludge villain, he's unable to do it at all. The sludge villain literally tries to take over Izuku, but it's pretty obvious that there's not necessarily anything he can do in general. And it seems like the sludge villain actually falls pretty quick to someone like Izuku, as Izuku would use kind of like a pseudo black hole to actually mess him up and destroy a ton of the different pieces. And eventually, guess what? The sludge villain would be in absolute shambles and would be in many, many different pieces, leading to everybody kind of seeing, or really Izuku seeing more specifically, that his power is very, very capable and his abilities are just as capable as well. Izuku would deal with the sludge villain before even All Might would arrive, and All Might would definitely think highly of someone like Izuku Midoriya. He would think that Izuku's powers, his abilities, I mean, it's outstanding. How is he able to do such amazing things? How is he able to, inflict so much damage to something that really isn't the most, the most tanky, but also kind of isn't the most, easy to defeat, you could say, right? And Izuku is no joke, what it seems, and it's kind of odd to see that an actual student, yes, a student, is able to do the things he's able to do. In which Izuku's not even a student at UA, not at least not yet, and Izuku just continues to coast with what he's getting into and continues getting stronger and stronger throughout this time, because after a meeting with All Might, a new kind of want and desire to be better and stronger and all of the above comes about him. All he can think about is being better. All he can think about is being like All Might, which this is definitely something that he believes he genuinely can do. And this is something that he believes that eventually he'll be just like All Might, if not stronger than him. So for the next 10 months, he continues training, trying to get better at everything and every aspect. He's thought very simple so far. He's thought very, very small. What he's thought about is how to utilize his abilities based around the idea of utilizing space-like abilities. And those abilities, well, it's very limited. At least the idea of them is very limited. Now, obviously, he has the ability of flight. He can create pseudo-like black holes and stuff like that. But there's so much more he can do that he has no idea that he can truly do it. And over those 10 months, he tries to kind of delve into those aspects, the aspects that he doesn't understand just yet, but the aspects that he really wants to get his head around, and the aspects that he believes will allow him to really jumpstart what he wants to do and really jumpstart his abilities. And that's exactly what he's doing. That's exactly what he begins to get into, because he starts realizing that his powers go beyond just what he has. It's not just an ability to utilize a black hole, not just an ability to utilize flight and kind of free dynamics in terms of the sky itself. There's so much more. So much more. Everything in space is his abilities. Everything in space allows him to jump to that next step. Everything in space gives him the infinite power that he seeks and the strength that he seeks in general. And he's been thinking too small, especially when you think about it. Space itself is borderline infinite. And that's exactly what he starts believing and thinking throughout these 10 months. Yes, he doesn't really get into a ton of what he should be, or he doesn't really know what direction he should take, but at least for now, he understands the idea and where he should be headed to a certain degree. And after all of this is said and done, after everything is put to rest, and after everything is dealt with, Izuku Midoriya, well, he's now ready. Izuku Midoriya is now prepared for the one thing that he's been waiting for, and that one thing is, well, the UA entrance exam. The entrance exam that could potentially get him to exactly where he wants to be. So Izuku Midoriya, and his first look into the UA entrance exam, he's excited. He's ready to go, and he feels as if he's fully prepared. Yes, his arsenal might be limited, but it's powerful. Very powerful. At just a touch, he's able to create a black hole that he can basically move around and destroy, incinerating or kind of obliterating robot after robot. So once he jumps in and starts working and fighting and destroying these various different robots, I mean, it's pretty obvious that his level that he's at least currently, is far more than what really is needed for this exam. And yes, he does struggle a bit with the written portion, just like every other kid there, but it does make up for the fact that he goes absolutely insane during the practical portion. Even when a girl by the name of Ochaku Uraraka, basically gets stuck underneath a pile of rubble, he comes out of nowhere, being able to get rid of the rubble, pick her up, and fly her straight out of harm's way, and he's about to actually attack the 0 Point robot, the giant robot that stands lumbering over everybody. But as the time would run out and all the sirens would go off, the robot would stop in his tracks and he would no longer be pacing his way forward. And Izuku would realize that that means that's the end of the UA entrance exam. And as the exam comes to a halt, he realizes that his strength, his power was enough to do quite a bit, but he never will know how much he does until he gets the letter from UA themselves. So he awaits that letter, waits for it really long time, about 1 to 2 weeks, and it feels like years. As finally the letter would arrive, he would open it up to see a hologram come out of nowhere of All Might himself. All Might telling the kid that when he met him and he defeated that villain out of self-defense a long time ago, and they basically said that, it was All Might himself that did it, let's just say that he really was impressed, that there was no doubt that he could be the hero he wants to be, and for sure he could be even greater than even All Might himself, in which, of course, Izuku thinks that's really high praise. I mean, higher praise than probably he would expect. And he believes that there's just no way that he could be like All Might. There's no way he could truly be the person that All Might is saying. But All Might seems to be very confident in what this kid can truly be. In which Izuku, he thinks that this is great. And frankly, he thinks that this is the best moment of his life. All Might himself is giving him such high praise, but obviously he doesn't know if he's basically saying these things to other people as well, but he still will take it completely, believing that, you know what, this is amazing. This is the All Might himself, the greatest hero to ever live, is telling me that I have the potential to be just like him or even better. And that's something that Izuku refuses to take lightly, because if he can be like All Might, he can truly be one of the greatest heroes alive, exactly what he believes he can be at the end of the day. And this would lead to Izuku preparing for his eventual arrival at UA, and of course the fact that Izuku did become, or is, the #1 student based on a point value actually dedicated to the UA entrance exam. And yes, it's a little arbitrary here and there, but for the most part, Izuku believes, hands down, that he is that #1 student, that he is that person, and Izuku, day in and day out, believes that he'll be able to prove that over and over again, in which that's exactly what he's going to do. And let's just say Bakugo himself is not very happy with the idea that Izuku, well, he's a higher rank than even him, being higher or just a bit higher, just enough higher to basically show that Izuku is, yes, he's very, very, very good, but Bakugo is just behind him in terms of points. But let's be honest, Bakugo has always been behind him for quite a freaking bit. Now, with all that said, Izuku prepares for this, eventual arrival at UA, and the first day would eventually be upon him. And yes, it goes your typical normal first day at a school or a brand new school, as he enters, meets everybody, meets his teacher. But his teacher, well, he has some different ideas. His teacher says that they're not going to some lame orientation. They're going to actually do some work. They're going straight forward to actually check out what they are capable of and what their potential quirks are capable of. And Izuku, well, he's put to the test almost immediately, and Izuku is told exactly what he needs to do. For starters, throw the ball as far as possible. And Izuku, well, he doesn't know how to do this. Like, with his quirk, I mean, yes, he could try to use his kind of ability as a black hole, or use kind of like a pseudo ability like that. But how would he do that? Like, he's not like he's shooting it out of a cannon, right? Like, he doesn't really know. So he tries and thinks to himself that, you know what? I'm just going to throw it as hard as possible. He doesn't know how it's going to work or what's going to happen, but that's what he thinks. He says, might as well just huck the ball as far as freaking possible. And that's exactly what he tries. And as he does, the ball would light ablaze and go flying through the sky. He's completely shocked by this, like wondering how the hell did he just do that? But he realizes that this must be another aspect of his quirk that he never knew about in the first place, or just didn't even think about in the first place at all. This must be a part of the quirk, a flaming part of the quirk, or kind of like a fire aspect of it, because it seems like Izuku can actually utilize fire, if to an extent, right? It's not necessarily fire, but he is utilizing like the abilities that would be shown in space, or kind of like powers that could be shown in space, being that of an actual comet. And that's what he was able to create out of when throwing the ball itself, a basic comet, which is pretty damn insane for him to think about. The idea that he can actually do this is kind of beyond him to a certain extent. And Aizawa, while watching this all unfold, I mean, there's just a big smirk on his face when Izuku's own eyes would widen, and it's obvious that he didn't even know he could do that in the first place. And Aizawa realizes that quickly this kid's potential is off the charts. And as the entire exam goes on, this quirk assessment goes on, Izuku continues to show why he's the #1 student, getting #1 in almost every single aspect, except for even the ball throw, which is ironic. Someone else by the name of Ochaku Araka, who he saved recently, actually gets #1 with the score of infinity. But everything else, Izuku's speed is ridiculous. Izuku's abilities are ridiculous. Every single little aspect of it, Izuku just shows that he is at what feels to be a higher level than most of the students there. But eventually, Izuku would get down to every single aspect, and then it would finally be over. Izuku would finish off his quirk assessment and more or less, or at least for the most part, do his absolute best and or kind of, do a very high level, leading to him being the number one during this quirk assessment as well. And that right there is something that not many people expected. Not even Izuku expected him to do so or been able to do so, especially with how he was so nervous and honestly kind of skeptical about being able to do very good in this first in that very first quirk assessment with the ball throw. But obviously, he's underestimating how strong and how capable he truly is, because Izuku Midoriya's potential seems to be off the charts. But as this all concludes and as Aizawa lets them all go, telling them that it was a bit of a ruse, that he was going to, expel somebody, but all that is all, in the end, right? All in the past now. And Izuku now knows that it's really time to kind of take the next step, right? It is really time for him to kind of prepare for whatever is going to happen next. And that next thing that he should and will be expecting is obviously the eventual heroes versus villains like test. And the heroes versus villains is actually led by All Might himself. But nothing really changes entirely. When he goes 2v2 against Bakugo and Tenya, and his partner being that of Ochaku Uraraka, it's pretty obvious that there's really no or nothing to really be afraid of / believing that nothing really bad will happen, because Izuku, he shows that he can really think outside the box using the powers he has to find the bomb via just flying around and eventually finding it and destroying past the window with one little kind of smack, and then getting in, touching the bomb, and essentially winning without even having to force a fight. Now, does this piss off Bakugo? Of course. This absolutely makes Bakugo livid. I mean, he is pissed. Yes, he has respect for Izuku because he believes that Izuku Midoriya is, he's impressive. He's very well impressive, but at the same time, he's still pissed about this. He wants to prove that he's better than Izuku, and how do you prove that you're better when he doesn't even get a chance to actually fight against him? And this right here frustrates him to no bound. I mean, he is pissed about this. But, of course, even All Might himself reminds Bakugo that he'll get his chance. He'll get his chance to really show what he's capable of in the up-and-coming the UA Sports Festival, which they have a little bit of time before that, but he'll have a chance to at least show off and show what he's capable of. But for now, he's going to have to take this one on the chin and try to be humble about it and not be too upset about what he's able to do, and not be too upset about, his loss, at least at this point. Which Bakugo nods his head and, realizes his little mistakes. And yes, having Izuku being very powerful from the start definitely changes his outlook on what he can do personally. Now, all that said and done, Izuku prepares for the next thing that they're going to get into, and that's called the USJ, or the Rescue Facility. Something he's excited about because he's heard rumors that they'll be able to work with Pro Hero 13. And Pro Hero 13 has very similar powers, or at least to an extent similar powers, to even Izuku himself. So he believes that learning from her might have its massive benefits. But what he doesn't know is that this right here isn't going to be the end of, what could potentially happen. Because before he can even get help, before he can ask questions, and before they can even train at all, something happens that nobody would expect, and that is the arrival of villains. And that more specifically being the League of Villains. and Izuku is in shock by this. So much so that he doesn't do a single thing until they're teleported away and he ends up in a large body of water. The water itself would wake him up from his like weird kind of trance like state, you know, kind of like being in a dream-like state in a way, right? He's not really doing anything, in which he realizes he needs to lock in and figure out what the hell is going on. And this will lead him to getting saved by Asui and dragged out of the water. But Izuku tells her that now it's time for him to do what he does best, in which he immediately would utilize a black hole to get rid of the entirety of the lake or the entirety of the water, and then send it right back out to basically clash and make this kind of water-like tornado in a way to basically mess with all the villains that were within the water in the first place, making them get pushed and slanged and moved around like crazy to the point where they're slamming into each other, and it makes a bit of a vortex that sucks them all in and makes it so they can no longer even help or fight or even stop them from leaving, in which Asui, Mineta, and Izuku Midoriya would use this chance to leave as quick as possible and get on with whatever they have to get on with, because this is something that they have to progress on, because this is not okay. They believe that whatever is happening, they have to help to try to avoid, you know, an eventual collapse. And Izuku just wants to find his way to just, you know, help out or kind of do anything in any possible state to try and you know, help out the Aizawa, Pro Hero 13, and anybody else that is currently there. That includes, you know, the students and stuff like that. He wants to help all of them as much as possible. Like, he doesn't know what's going to happen or what could happen next, but he wants to make sure that they can figure this thing out, that they can freaking do something that would eventually help them to a large degree, and that's what he's trying to do. Now, initially, he kind of gets people out of the way, kind of tries to find his way, you know, back to the group and stuff like that. But eventually, he would get into a bit of a fight with the large group of villains, where Aizawa is, for the most part, cleaning up. But as this is occurring, and as Izuku is stuck in this fight now, he has to deal with Shigaraki, deal with the Nomu, and even deal with Kurogiri. And Izuku believes that he can really help out here. At least he believes that to a large extent. And that's exactly what he begins to do. He starts fighting as much as possible. He starts absolutely fighting for his life here and believing that this is what needs to happen. And as he utilizes his powers, as he starts actually utilizing some of these kind of black holes and different things, or these like wormholes in a way, he begins to kind of set them up for a better degree, right? Set them up for something else. Set them up for a potential kind of like game plan here. And as this is happening, Izuku continues to fight alongside everybody. He continues to fight alongside every last person that stands next to him. And as he's doing this, well, Izuku would try his best to utilize whatever powers he has. If that's, you know, the black holes, or if that's utilizing any other little bit of power, he's trying everything he can to, like, you know, help out. That's what he's doing, and that's what, for the most part, he's getting into. And he helps Aizawa with the rest of the villains, and eventually has to take on Shigaraki. The Nomu, and/or, well, actually Kurogiri as well. And this would lead to a large fight. A fight that, well, Izuku is pretty well in and helping out a lot in. But at the same time, he's a student. The teachers and all of them, they're supposed to help protect and do what they possibly can to help their own students. But Izuku Midoriya is out there on the front lines. Izuku Midoriya is going head to head with them all. And this would be shocking, because Izuku, well, he believes that what he could do and all the power that he has, he should be able to do more. That if he was just more prepared, that if he just knew what type of powers he truly had, if he knew what he can truly do, then maybe, just maybe, he could have done so much more. And then out of nowhere, as all these thoughts are coming to his head, he begins to create a massive black hole. One that begins to absolutely bring in all of these villains. Shigaraki, the Nomu, Kurogiri, all get sucked within the black hole and sent spiraling. As all this is happening, he's in shock. He doesn't know what's happening. How is this occurring? What's going on? And eventually, he begins to feel something odd happening as well. Because this worm-like hole, or this black-like hole, begins to absolutely bring in every single person. Aizawa, Pro Hero 13, the students, even himself. They all go through it, and eventually, Izuku basically wakes up. He's on his bed again, laying down in his room, and he looks at the clock, looks at the day, and he realizes that he's at the same day that his teacher wanted to give them a job assessment, wondering what kind of career they wanted to get into. Everything he went through, it was a dream. Or was it? This is something he didn't expect. Nothing, anything, all of this doesn't make sense. But it starts to when everything starts happening exactly the way it happened. From the teacher talking about what he talked about, from the sludge villain attacking him and him defeating him, everything, to him even defeating All Might. And this right here would shock him the most, because he doesn't know what's happening. He doesn't know what's going on, but now he does. He realizes something, that this isn't what he expected, but his power gave him a second chance. It manipulated space and time, and now he's back here. And he realizes that aspects of his own power, aspects of his own strength, he needs to excel at what he can do, and he needs to have full control. Because out of nowhere, back when he was at that USJ, he lost control, and he doesn't know how he's going to stop it. And from here on out, after the sludge villain, he does everything similar, but he does things to the point where he tries his best to really understand what's happening. He tries his best to really figure out what's going on. He wants to figure out what he did, what's going on, and on top of that, he wants to be prepared. And that's exactly what he does. He prepares for it all. He knows what these villains are doing. He knows what they're looking for, but he also knows that there's something or someone that is looking closely at them while all of this is occurring, which blows Izuku's mind, him thinking that there might be someone that is actually kind of betraying them, that there might be somebody that is giving these villains or the League of Villains information. And that right there is something that Izuku wants to bring to the table quicker than you imagine. So after the sport, or after the kind of the UA assessments and all of the above, right? And eventually when he's able to get into UA once again, and he trains with different aspects of his quirk outside of what he can utilize, the comment aspect and all of these other aspects, and even the ability to utilize black holes, but in a far more controlled way. All of these ways is what he's training with. It's like he got a second chance. He got an ability to allow him to try this once again. And this allows him to go through the quirk assessment, go through heroes versus villains, or villains training, but then also allows him to warn everybody that the League of Villains are coming. And they don't believe him initially, but Izuku gives him all this information that he would have no idea, no clue would even exist. And eventually they would believe him. And when they would arrive, the villains would be in a rude awakening, because the heroes are prepared. Swiftly, all the villains are cleaned up, knocked out, and put behind bars. Shigaraki, the Nomu, and Kurogiri not expecting such an attack, with All Might and many other heroes already there in hiding to stop it. Even the kind of person that is kind of telling, or the insider in UA, is in shock as well. The insider is in complete kind of shock that they were able to predict what just happened, and predict that this was going to occur in the first place. And he doesn't know how to stop it or what to even say, but he knows that all for one, the one he's working for is going to be pissed. And that right there is 100% the case. And Izuku, well, let's just say he has to go through quite a bit because a lot of people want to know how the hell he figured those things out. And which is, fair and valid. At the end of the day, he seems like the traitor, right? He genuinely seems like he's the traitor that decided just to flip back sides. But he's not. So he tries for days on end, even missing the UA Sports Festival to actually prove his own innocence, telling them what he believed and what happened and blah, 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 showing him his powers and his ability to even create a pseudo-like wormhole. But he tells them that that's all he knew. He knew these things, and he tells them all these things that he remembers and what he's done. And they ask him, does he know anything else? And he says, right now, no, that this was as far as they got. This was as far as they got, and then he was sent what seems to be back in time. He doesn't know why it happened, what happened, or even how it necessarily occurred, but it sent him back in time. In which they ask him that is there a chance that he could see the future in a way if he learned how to control it truly. In which he shrugs his shoulders, says he has no idea, but maybe, just maybe, with training and figuring things out, he might be able to do just that. But he believes that there's always consequences to him seeing the future, but he doesn't know that for sure. He only knows that from other fiction and other movies and stuff like that, but he has a weird feeling that there will be consequences to what he's done, even if he didn't do it on purpose. In which they then tell him that the consequences he's going through are literally right now, because he's still under investigation for possibly being the traitor, and Izuku understands their aspects, but he knows that he has to continue to keep on pushing forward no matter what. And yes, no real hero agency wants to work with him. Nobody wants to even honestly be his friend to a certain extent. A lot of the other people or the other students are questionable about Izuku, questionable about what's going on. They heard about the rumors of a possible kind of traitor. So who's to say that Izuku is not that traitor? And that worries them. That worries every single person. I mean, seriously, who's to say that Izuku Midoriya isn't the traitor that they're looking for? In which Izuku, well, he tries to convince them, tries anything. And yes, he goes through kind of the hero agency aspect of things without an actual hero to train under. But he does get some help from Aizawa or Pro Hero 13, who continue to help him learn his abilities, continue to help him train. But one day he sits there getting some rest, drinking some water, and he hears about one person, Tenya Ida. Tenya Ida has been just mortally injured, insanely injured, almost killed by the hero killer himself. And everybody's in shock. No one can believe it. And most people still wonder, did Izuku Midoriya give them information about Tenya Ida? But Aizawa, Pro Hero 13, Nezu, and many others can vouch that that's not the case. The kid's been here. The kid's been working, training, studying. He's been locked and confined to what he's been doing, so it's not him. He's obviously not the traitor, and that means everything he said must have been true. In which this does hit kind of low because now they know, and Izuku did miss out on quite a bit, but at the same time, the best is still yet to come, especially because Izuku is going to get his chance to still go on and train with many of the other people in their final exam. And the final exam is something Izuku has been waiting for. But what he didn't know is that he'd be actually matched up with, or at least with, or fighting with or alongside Katsuki Bakugo, as they're going to team up and go head to head against All Might himself. In which Izuku's thinking that this isn't the best idea in the world. Like fighting him one-on-one or fighting him two-on-one, it's not a good idea. What they really should do is kind of, not fight him. And he believes that there's a good chance that Bakugo is not going to listen. and that there's a high likelihood that Bakugo doesn't care, that he believes that that's a kind of a dumb thing to do, like in terms of just fighting head to head with All Might himself. But of course, we all know the way Bakugo thinks, and so Bakugo goes head first and wants to fight All Might to a large degree, and Izuku is forced to back him up, and Izuku does everything he possibly can to try and help him. But soon All Might would show that he's levels above Bakugo in terms of raw power, and Izuku would grab Bakugo, send a kind of a like a black hole right at All Might, so he basically has to deal with it, at least for the moment, as he would dodge, as Izuku would make it dissipate, and he would begin flying away with a knocked out Bakugo. And as he flies away, everybody's in shock to see that Izuku didn't leave behind the kind of big mouth Bakugo and the annoying person he kind of is, the angry Pomeranian, but he refuses to leave somebody behind. And this right here gets back more trust than you could imagine with the people that weren't necessarily trusting him at that moment, but the people that did trust him even more. And Izuku Midoriya gets out of that gate just barely as a punch would wing by the face of Izuku that was about to hit him from All Might, and they get out and they qualify for obviously the forest training camp. But really, the main thing is they pass the UA final exam, or the final exam in general, and Izuku Midoriya is on his way to not only prove what he can do, prove who he is, and prove what he's truly capable of. And Izuku Midoriya loves the idea of being seen as the underdog, at least for the moment, because he knows and he believes that his abilities, his strength, and what he's capable of will show every single person that he's on a level that is truly to be kind of inspired by, because Izuku right now is going to show everybody why he is the #1 student in UA, and why he is, for the most part, kind of the next up and coming great hero alongside someone, or compared to someone like All Might. But obviously they have a lot to get into, especially with the training at the forest training camp. But for now, that is going to be the end of part 1 of 2 of What If Deku Had a Space Quirk. And if you guys enjoyed, please show some love. Leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below. All that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And yeah, that's all I got to say. Hope you guys enjoyed. And I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.